This is the story of Sally Williams. Warning: this story contains violence, death, and mentions of S.A. Sally was a young girl, 8 years old, long curly brown hair and bright green eyes. She was always polite, she never lied, and did as she was told. Her mother and father simply adored her. They couldn't ask for a better daughter. Over the course of the next few days, Uncle Johnny drove up to the house. "Johnny, you got here safe and sound." "Of course I did. Why else wouldn't I come here safe and sound?" As dinner drew near, Sally's father came home, happy to see his brother was there as well. Plate after plate was empty, and Sally began to yawn over and over again, rubbing her eyes with her hands. "Looks like someone is tired. Time for bed."
"I'll take her to bed," he smiled, earning one in return.
"All right, thank you, John." John smiled and closed the door behind him, watching the girl rummage around through her dresser for pajamas to wear.
"You need any help?" he asked, watching the girl look up and nod.
Placing the gown on her bed, he reached over to her and began to unbutton her shirt.
"I can get dressed, Uncle," she said with a smile, looking down at his hands on her shirt.
"I bet you can, but you're tired, and why not have some help?" he asked, watching Sally nod a few times. "All done," he said happily, watching the girl smile back, giggling when she bounded on top of her
Johnny
bed.
rose up and picked up her clothes. The door opened up and in walked Sally's mother, coming to tuck her in.
"I'll tuck her in, that okay?" Marie looked up at him and smiled, shaking her head.
"Of course not." She looked down at her daughter and leaned in, kissing the child on her forehead. "Good night, sweetheart."
"Good night, Mama."
Johnny smiled to the mother and walked over to the light switch, flicking it off. He carefully closed the door to her room and locked it. Slowly, he looked over his shoulder towards Sally. Johnny wore a chilling, crooked smile. After the next few days, Marie noticed that Sally wasn't acting herself. "Honey, are you feeling okay?" she asked, kneeling down to be at the child's height.
Mama, I didn't want to." The girl managed to say, though
"Didn't want to
hiccuping
do what,
sobs.
sweetie?"
I didn't want to play. I didn't want to play his G game." The child looked up at her mother and hugged her tight. He touched me, and made me touch him.
"Shh. It's okay. Mama's here now. It was a nightmare, that's all." The girl had a scary nightmare.
"Oh, okay, Mama." Her mother smiled and kissed her forehead.
Later that day, Johnny and his brother came back home from work. Johnny looked up at Sally as well and smiled, waving to her. The child's smile slowly wilted, showing less happiness in it, but waved back as well. Johnny also walked inside the house and paused when he heard the conversation between his brother and his wife.
"Sally, what?" Frank asked.
"She had a nightmare. A very bad one. She said he touched her."
"Well, who the hell is he?"
"I don't know, Frank, but it was only a nightmare. I just wanted to inform you of what's been going on with her and why she was acting different." Johnny furrowed his brows in anger, his knuckles turning white.
"Whoops, did I interrupt something?" he asked, watching the couple shake their heads. Johnny smiled again and thumbed back in the direction of the car. "I'm going to head to the store. You need anything, Marie?" The woman smiled and looked towards the kitchen.
"Yes, actually. Can you get me some eggs, milk, bread and juice?" Johnny nodded, about to leave until he paused.
"Sally wanted to come along too. Just wanted to inform you." Marie smiled.
"Thank you, John." He nodded again and made his way out of the house.
"Sally," the child looked up at him and stared. "Come on, let's go to the store." John made his way over to the car, gesturing for the girl to follow him. Sally sat there for a moment, then placed her dolls on the grass.
"I'll be back. Please watch over Marzipan and Lily for me."
Sally reluctantly made her way around the car, climbing into the passenger seat and buckled herself in.
Sally nervously smiled back and looked ahead, watching the scenery pass by. As soon as they got to the road leading to the store, Sally noticed he wasn't slowing down to turn into the parking lot.
"Uncle Johnny, the store is back that way," she said, pointing in the direction of the Whole Foods store. But nothing came from the man. He just continued driving, a very faint smile on his face.
"You told your mom what happened, didn't you?" he asked, watching the girl frantically shake her head. No, you're not playing the game right, Sally.
Opening the car door beside him, the man climbed out along with the child and shoved her to the ground, quickly pinning her down, ignoring the cries and writhing the child was making. "You have to be punished now for breaking the rules," he said in that slight singing tone and began to unbuckle his belt.
This just in, a couple finds the body of 8-year-old Sally Williams in the community park. The week-long search is now closed. More tonight at 9.
Sally now haunts her old house, playing with the kids and scaring the adults. She is now known as a poltergeist and was killed by her Uncle Johnny smashing her head open with a rock. This is the end of the creepy pasta. Play with me. You can also read the story fully online.